The Labour government has unveiled its new climate targets, setting an ambitious goal to reduce emissions by 62% to 70% by 2030. This target, however, has sparked both praise and criticism. While some have commended the government for its bold approach, others argue that the target is either too high or too low. Climate Change Minister Chris Bowen defended the target, calling it a Goldilocks solution that strikes a balance between environmental protection, economic growth, and job creation. Bowen emphasized that the target is designed to protect Australia's future generations and meet national interests, while also advancing efforts to mitigate climate change. Despite Bowen's optimism, skepticism has been expressed, especially by the opposition, which claims that the government's 2030 target is unachievable. Climate advocacy groups have also expressed concern, arguing that the target is insufficient to prevent the significant climate damage forecasted in the latest risk reports. Bowen acknowledged the challenges of forecasting and the uncertainty of future climate trends, but reaffirmed that the target was based on evidence and expert advice. He pointed out that the government was not setting unrealistic targets without proper modeling or data to support them. After several delays, including postponing the original target that was slated for release earlier in the year, the government has committed to an internationally binding emissions reduction pledge. The newly announced range of 62% to 70% emissions cuts by 2030 is seen as the maximum achievable level of ambition, according to experts. Bowen explained that the target was chosen after consultation with the Climate Change Authority, which recommended the 62% to 70% range as the most feasible goal for the country. The government is confident that this target is ambitious yet achievable, with the backing of scientific and economic modeling. The government's climate agenda also includes significant plans for the energy sector. To meet these targets, the country will need to transition to renewable energy, with more than 90% of the electricity grid expected to come from renewable sources by 2035. This will involve quadrupling wind energy production and tripling solar capacity, alongside a major shift in the transport sector, where half of all cars sold by 2035 are expected to be electric vehicles, EVs. Furthermore, the logging of old-growth forests will end as part of efforts to reduce emissions from the land use sector. Bowen emphasized that this transition presents a significant economic opportunity, with projections suggesting that the shift to cleaner energy will lead to economic growth in the long term. Treasury modeling indicates that a 65% emissions reduction target could add trillions of dollars to Australia's economy, while an alternative approach, one that does not focus on clear emissions targets, could shrink the economy and lead to higher energy prices. The government has also received advice from the Climate Change Authority that a disorderly transition without clear targets could result in wholesale electricity prices rising by up to 70% by 2030. Bowen acknowledged the challenges associated with this transition, especially for households and businesses, but underscored that the long-term benefits of shifting to renewables would outweigh the short-term costs. On the issue of energy prices, Bowen assured Australians that renewable energy would be the cheapest form of power in the future. Studies, including those from the Australian Energy Market Commission, predict that the increased use of renewables will lower energy costs, in contrast to maintaining the status quo with coal-fired power, which is expected to drive prices up. Bowen explained that the replacement of aging coal plants with renewable energy sources would ultimately bring down prices, but acknowledged that this transition will take time. He pointed to the fact that Australians who have already installed solar panels and batteries are already experiencing lower energy bills, and that the broader adoption of renewable energy will help reduce costs for everyone. While the government remains committed to ambitious climate action, Bowen addressed the reality that the transition will not be instant. The timeline for achieving these goals is long, and there will be challenges along the way. However, Bowen stressed that renewables are a good investment for both the economy and the planet, offering both lower emissions and lower costs in the future. Despite some political pushback, Bowen remains confident that Australia's climate strategy will place the country among the leaders in global climate action. The government has also faced criticism regarding the details of its policy, particularly concerning industries with high emissions. In response, Bowen pointed to the detailed sector-specific plans already outlined, including pathways for decarbonizing industries and boosting investment in CI. The government has also faced criticism regarding the details of its policy, particularly concerning industries with high emissions. In response, Bowen pointed to the detailed sector-specific plans already outlined, including pathways for decarbonizing industries and boosting investment in clean energy technologies. While the safeguard mechanism, which targets heavy-emitting industries, is still in its early stages, Bowen assured that reforms were underway and that these industries would have a role to play in achieving Australia's emissions reduction goals. The government is also closely monitoring the progress of these reforms, with a review scheduled for next year to ensure that emissions reductions are on track. Bowen also discussed the challenges in the transport sector, where vehicle emissions are still rising. The government's new vehicle efficiency standards and tax incentives are expected to drive increased uptake of electric vehicles in the coming years, although Bowen acknowledged that it would take time for these measures to have a significant impact on emissions. When asked about electricity prices, Bowen reaffirmed that renewables are the most cost-effective source of energy, and that sticking to the government's renewable energy plan will lead to lower electricity prices in the long run. While acknowledging the short-term challenges, Bowen emphasized that renewable energy sources would ultimately reduce energy costs and improve reliability, especially as coal-fired power plants continue to age and become less reliable. He assured Australians that the transition to renewables would be worth the wait, both for the economy and the environment. As the government moves forward with its climate plan, Bowen remains optimistic that it will not only meet its targets, but also position Australia as a global leader in climate action. While there will be challenges along the way, the government is committed to pushing forward with its ambitious goals, balancing the need for climate action with the economic realities of the transition.